All right, everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are joining us from. We are back with another FOMO Friday. Really excited to get this kicked off. A lot has happened since our last FOMO Friday, but whatever we were discussing, like you can go back and watch, it's exactly like what we were describing previously. So really excited to see the price action has kind of followed what we've been talking about in the last few months. And so really looking forward to us discussing today. So we'll be diving into what's happening in the markets, what's happening with Bitcoin, and we'll look at some levels that are coming up, some levels that have already been hit. And yeah, so excited to get this kicked off. Bits, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I it's one of those where it's like we're finally here. This is I feel like we've been talking about seeing Bitcoin and some of these other coins kind of move up into some key areas. So yeah, we're here. I think it's time to start either executing on a plan that you should have already had outlined, or it's time to start potentially outlining a plan up here. So, but yeah, I'm doing well. It's a good it's been a good week. The stock market is
Yes.
just ripping, Lady Trader. The stock market is crazy.
Melts up,
Yes.
melts up. Yes, it's
Yeah.
melting up right now.
Yeah, it's wild. It is absolutely wild what's happening on that side. So I think we should at some point also talk about like let's talk about altcoins because I'm seeing some alt signals here that like maybe this little pump we're getting in alts, um, maybe it goes on for another week or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't see
You
any of
can
these
wave
making
it.
all-time highs, but
Yeah, no, go ahead. If you want to take the mic and yeah, let's go
cool.
over with your charts. I'll go ahead and start sharing the link in the groups.
Okay, let me pull up here. Where's Trading View? Hmm.
Welcome Crypto Block Exchange. Welcome Carl.
There we go. And you see here. Let me pull this up. Boom. Cool. And then let me actually get. Where's this gone? There we go. Got the banner up. Beautiful. Yeah, look, I have Ethereum pulled up. Maybe we can start here, I guess, since it's already up, and then we'll kind of go back to BTC. But I was talking about this yesterday that what was interesting about ETH was that we saw it actually led on the move up. And what I mean by that is here, let me remove some of this stuff, some of this noise. But on the way up, right? We were watching this key level here, which was the high that was put in March of this year, and Bitcoin has a similar level. Um, XRP, Litecoin, Solana, they all had a similar push up earlier this year in March. And what was interesting was that Ethereum was actually leading on the way up. It was one of the first of the majors that took out that March high. It did it before Bitcoin, but it also it took it out and it stalled while Bitcoin actually kind of did the opposite. Bitcoin, let me put away some of this stuff. Bitcoin, after it took out that March high, it still pushed a little bit more, and even though it had a pullback, it continued with putting in some higher highs. Whereas Ethereum essentially just kind of rolled over and started putting in lower lows, lower highs. It was kind of signaling some weakness, which was interesting because then you had a divergence between these two, right? You had these two assets, these two majors, which they're not perfectly correlated, but they are pretty highly correlated. It's rare that you see Bitcoin moving higher if it's not also kind of pulling ETH up with it, or the other way around. So you had those two where suddenly they were divergent. You had BTC signaling some strength, and Ethereum kind of cooling off and signaling a little bit of weakness, while BTC just kind of continued going higher. And like we've talked about it on Spaces a couple times as well, where the question for me was like, okay, well, which one of these is lying? Which one's telling us the real story of like what's happening here? Which one is actually telling us if the market has actual legs to go significantly higher, or if it's just kind of posturing? It's just posturing as maybe some strength that's not, it's not going to be able to back it up, after an amount of time. So we've kind of still seen that, BTC kept pushing. BTC hit all the key levels that I was watching, Lady Trader. I mean, there's more levels to the upside that we can talk about, but the big ones for me were that 80,600. You guys heard me talk about 80,600 over the last like couple months. Huge level. It was a big level on the quarterly. It's the previous range low, 80,600. That's been that single number that I've been saying, 80,600, 80,600. And we came up to it. We came up to the highs of February after taking out the March high. We're above the 800. We got above the 200 on the daily. We also got above the 6-month rolling volume weighted average. There's just a bunch of things we were watching, and it came up into it. There's also, if you grab a fib of, from here, you pull it down to this move, and then you're looking for the retracement percentages here. This came right up into the golden pocket. This is like that 618 to 65 golden pocket right here, right where price moved into. So as far as I'm concerned, I mean, it's pretty much hit all of the upside targets that I was looking for, in order for this to cool off for a little bit, and then either, work its way back down towards the bottom of like this range, this volatility range here. And, you could draw it as a channel. There's some horizontal levels that you can say like, okay, look, there's some levels here that we're kind of interested in, even that. Or are we actually about to see this maybe consolidate here for a little bit and then try and push up to break above this, right? And I think that's the big question right now that I'm kind of watching. I'm observing the strength in the altcoin market, mainly in the micros. And here's what I noticed. I was looking at total 2, right? Total 2 is basically just excludes Bitcoin and stable coins in this one. So total 2 ES. So it's Ethereum, it's Solana, XRP, it's all of those. And this one, it looked okay. I mean, it looks fine. It's going sideways. It's just kind of consolidating here. But then when I was looking at total 3, this was the one that jumped out at me. So total 3 excludes the BTC, Ethereum, stable coins, and then it compares it to Bitcoin on this ratio. And I was kind of like, ooh, this is starting to look interesting here. This is starting to look like maybe there's a sweep, or maybe it's going to be a higher low, but this is starting to look like it's trying to maybe get a move higher. So I've been watching total 3, and others has also looked really interesting on the lower time frames. Others has been pushing up. And so this is like these are the poo coins. These are the micro caps, the memes, like that type of stuff. They were bleeding out horribly, but they've been a little bit on a run now. So what I'm trying to say is, I'm observing that there's liquidity flowing into the micro caps, but not yet into like the majors. I'm not really seeing big moves out of Ethereum, XRP, LTC, Solana, ADA, BNB. Any of those are not really moving. Like the top 50 aren't really moving. It's like the everything under the top 100 or the top 200. Absolutely, the micros are getting some pumps, and they're not like earth shattering pumps, but they are moving. Some of the ones that we've already played, for example, I'll show you a couple really good ones here. Ondo did really well. Managed to get Ondo down here at 25, like 26 cents. Same thing, but it was kind of signaling on a quarterly chart that something was happening there. Here, I'll show you the setup on Ondo. But this was that Ondo setup. It's about to hit that TP1 we had set out. So this is looking really good. Pengu was another one that did a similar trade. Also, I think I have Pengu on this one though. Let me see. Yeah, Pengu got it off the lows. Absolutely ripper of a move. Cetus was another one. So I started noticing, man, a lot of these weird, like small projects, they're not the majors, they're not our legacy coins, like all of these, I'm sitting here still waiting for them to do something. I'm waiting for Litecoin to do something. I'm waiting for XRP to do something. I'm waiting for Ethereum, Solana, ADA, all of these to do something, and they're just now starting to warm up. Cardano's starting to maybe warm up a little bit here. So I think there's something there, but I think what we have to keep in mind is even if these put in these like 100%, 200% moves, which is what they're doing, they're not really changing market structure. They're not breaking the downtrend yet. Like these things are still trending lower overall. Like this is still Ondo, yes, has had a huge pump, but look, I mean, look how far down it's fallen, right? So look at this one, Book of Memes. Like there's nothing really. This is the big pivot that I would want to see change on Book of Memes, and it hasn't. So even though we're seeing some action, I think there's going to be maybe a little bit more still, just kind of based on how I'm reading it and what I'm seeing here. Maybe another week, maybe a couple weeks. I don't know if this could go through the end of the month. That seems like a bit of a stretch, but I think we go a little bit more. We get some more pumps in, and then what's going to happen is all of the pumps that you're going to see in these are gonna cause people to start feeling a little bit of FOMO, and then that's what will lead to people buying the tops on a lot of this stuff before we get the actual pullback here on BTC or across the board if we get it. So yeah, very interested. I've been playing a lot of altcoins, a lot of longs on alts, and then BTC have been looking for the short. Didn't get BTC exposure to the upside on this move because I was just so focused on the altcoins, just catching a lot of those alts to the downside, and I'm perfectly okay with that. Those things are running way harder than BTC has, but I am interested here in starting to pay attention to see if Bitcoin's going to give me an opportunity at a short, and it's the short that I wanted. I've been wanting this short for a long time, so let's see if I get it. Let's see if it goes down here. I am prepared, and I think I spoke about this last night, right? And you were on that, but I am prepared that maybe maybe if the market's a little hotter than it needs to be still, and it needs another leg up, like I'm prepared for a move that off of here maybe just comes here, like towards the middle of the channel, and then tries to push another leg up. And if it's really hot, I am prepared for it to do like a move down here, even if necessary, and then try and get another leg up. And that other leg up could be the lower high. It could be what puts in something like that, and then ultimately sends this lower. But I am very much prepared to be looking for some hedging positions here. I want to get some long exposure on a move towards this like lower half of the channel, just in case it tries to push in another leg up, whether it's a lower high or whether it goes for that yearly open. We'll have to wait and see. And look, if it rolls over, if it just completely melts from here, Lady Trader, and this thing just goes down, takes out the lows, then beautiful. I'll be short exposed, and you won't hear any complaints from me.
That makes perfect sense.
But that's where we are.
Anything
It's been exciting. It's been fun. It's been a little bit of like a head scratcher at times here with BTC, where you're just like, where's this like strength coming from? Like, how is it still moving up? But it's going. I mean, it's going to the level that we knew it could get to. You and I went back and forth about this level 1,000 times. We're like, yeah, like technically it makes a lot of sense. How is it going to get up there? We didn't know. We're like, well, I don't know the likelihood of it going up there. We don't know if it's going to get up there all at once or slowly. But this was a level that we knew. I mean, the mainly you're the one who's calling out all the EMAs. I remember, and I wasn't really using EMAs heavily, but now seeing that they were up here, and then combining it with the fibs, combining it with the volume profile and the structure that I typically look at, it's like, yeah, that's the area I want. That's where I want to pay attention.
Yeah, the 200 EMA weekly was pretty much on point, and those were two levels that I really called also on April 29th in Alpha Seedlings, because the 800 EMA and the 200 EMA weekly, daily 800 and weekly 200, those were important levels, and so really excited to see that those levels were hit. Yeah, Bits, this is great take. Anything else that you want to add to your analysis before we go to NatNet?
No, let's go to Nat. I'm just over here playing with the EMAs. I was curious on the weekly what was still overhead. We hit the 100 on the weekly. Okay, that's interesting.
And there is one. There's another one coming up. 50 is coming up.
The 50 right above. Yeah, 85.5.
Yeah. There are
On
some
the
levels up there
monthly,
too.
is there anything
Mm-hmm.
on the monthly above? Oh yeah, the
Uh,
the 13 and the 21 on the monthly. We're coming right up to 13 and 21 on the monthly.
13 and 21 would be important ones for sure.
And look, they did kind of support the entire move up.
Actually,
So,
yeah, 21 was hit already,
yeah,
13 not quite. There are definitely some levels that we could
yeah,
discuss on monthly as well. I have
yeah.
some
Looking
levels
forward to
marked
it.
as well. So we'll, yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Let's go to
Yeah, I know.
Nad.
I
I'm
know you'll.
excited.
I know you're gonna bring the alpha with the EMA, so I'm excited to hear it.
Yes, yes, absolutely. There's definitely some alpha that is going to be well received.
Beautiful.
I see Ned has her charts up, so we're going to go ahead and bring it up right here. The queen of liquidity. Take it away, Ned.
All right, thank you so much, Lady Trading. Great, amazing take, bit. So as you guys can see, and I think you mentioned it perfectly at in your opening segment, Lady Trader, that BTC kind of just moved the way we were talking about a few actually some time ago, right? Remember we had that liquidity that
Mm-hmm.
was building at 80K, and we weren't quite sure if we were going to get to it. The first level that we needed it to break was for me that 76K, and closes above that would be, would give us the move that we need for higher. Because there
Mm-hmm.
was a little bit of liquidity stack on top. But as far as Market Monkey is concerned, a lot of the liquidity up at the top, we've grabbed a chunk of it already. What There's some slight buildup, but I think as we've discussed previously, nothing really stands out. However, one thing that I've noticed is usually when it comes to Market Monkey Terminal and the liquidity, it tends to update heavier throughout the weekend. So maybe people are positioning themselves on the weekend and hedging their bets on the weekends. I'm not sure, but there's something there. Last weekend, I noticed that,
That's interesting.
yeah, yeah, yep. Let's see if it happens this weekend, right? But last weekend, I noticed that there was a big order at 79 and change, and I mentioned it on the space, and we kind of got that. We went all the way up above. But one thing that I've mentioned on the space multiple times is the layer of liquidity that's been building down below, right? See, look at the top, there's barely any. But if we start looking at the bottom, we have layers of 50K, 56K, 50K, 56K,
Mm.
40K, 30K, all the way down, and it goes all the way down to 58. So that to me signals that there's a move to the downside coming. However, I wouldn't rule out a short squeeze or continued move higher, right? There is some buildup, as I said, right? But nothing that stands out just yet. So I'm curious to see
Yo,
what would
Carl brings up a
happen.
great point, Nat. Did you see Carl's comment? I wonder if you have any takes on
N-
that.
What was his comment? I didn't see it.
So he says it's the traders that have 9 to 5 regular jobs loading up on the weekends.
Ooh,
You think
you
that
know
has
what?
you
He could
you
be.
think there might be something to that?
I think there's something going on the weekends, especially on Saturdays, because when I open these
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
terminals up on Sundays, the liquidity has changed, it has shifted, and it is thicker and heavier.
mm.
But as of right now, there's nothing at the top that stands out just yet. So I'm curious to see what would happen overnight into Saturday, or maybe Saturday into Sunday, because there has been 3 Saturdays now in a row in which the liquidity has shifted and they have piled up. And oftentimes, what we've been seeing is it's within a tight range, but
Mm-hmm.
mostly to the top. However, this time, I'm seeing these building heavy row and line upon line all the way down to the bottom, which is very interesting because I've never seen them this aggressively. So I'm curious to see what the liquidity would look like come Saturday. But that is actually a great point. It can be people that don't have the chance or the opportunity to do anything on weekdays that are positioning themselves and hedging their bets on the weekend. So but there's definitely something there. Let's see if it continues. So 80,500 has 61. And I'm still sticking to my thesis, guys, because we've seen this play out time and time again. Liquidity that's been heavy, like 230 million that we had at 80K a few days ago, that got swept up, right? Anything above 90 million in liquidity, those have been getting swept up. But as of right now, we don't have any of that. And I went through all the entire list, everything all the way down to 58, and we don't have any of that. But as far as where the liquidity is the heaviest, obviously, as we can see, it is piling up at the bottom, right? These double lines, the price tends to gravitate towards these double lines. Granted, not right away, but at some point they do hit that. So, not for
Mhm.
clarification, not saying that we can't go higher, right? Because we absolutely can. But I think, and I've mentioned this on the space multiple times, whether we go higher or not, overall, my thesis has remained the same. I think at some point we revisit the lows, right? So I kind of just want to pull
Mhm.
up my weekly chart on BTC because there's one thing I'm looking at in particular to this week candle. Let me just switch it out real quick. One second, guys.
Sure, take your time. But yeah, I'm with Carl on this. Like, it's usually on the weekends you have retail traders that are
Yep.
trading and not really institutional money, right? Institutions are off on holidays and the big whales are off. They're enjoying their weekend. They're not here looking at the charts.
That is very true. So the
Mhm.
weekly to me is very interesting, right? We actually spoke about all of these EMAs, I believe, like a month ago, right? So we're
Mhm.
seeing it kind of like play out. But for me, I think if this candle right here closes red, I think we're done. And
We're done here.
I'm looking towards the next. Yep, I'm looking towards the next move down, right? Because it'll be a clear rejection, right? So that's one thing I'm
Mhm.
keeping my eye on the weekly close. But if not, if we manage to close above this support, this resistance right here, and confirm this as support, I wouldn't rule us hitting the next EMA above, which should put us at 85, almost 86. And it's again, these are the EMAs that we've been talking about for really some time now. I believe like about a month in advance, where we kind of
Mhm.
spoke about different scenarios playing out, and this is definitely one of them. So we're kind of just seeing how this plays out. So for me, in terms of positioning, I need to see where this candle closes because for me, that would definitely say a lot, right? Because we have that initial rejection there. So a close red or close below these support lines, I think we're done and we're going to go ahead and revisit the liquidity that has been piling up line for line. And it's going to get really ugly because I'm seeing a lot of people get max bullish at this level. So it's
Mhm.
going to be very interesting to see how that plays out, right? So the other thing I wanted to touch on real quick is the stock RSI. It can stay in this level for some time, right? So like we saw here back in October of 2023, it stayed at this level for some time as the price continued to rip, right? So it's up high again. Doesn't mean that it's going to go down right away, but at some point it is followed by some kind of a pullback, right? So this is one thing I'm keeping my eye on. It'll coincide with maybe this candle closing red, but the actual RSI is signaling some strength here, so we can definitely move higher before lower. But there's
Mhm.
definitely a big move incoming here. So that's one thing that I'm looking at, and I'm keeping a close eye on this in terms of positioning and as far as the liquidity is concerned. So what I'll do tomorrow, once if we do have the same thing that has been happening for the past 3 weekends now with the big liquidity shift, I'll make a post about it because then at that point, this will be the fourth weekend in a row. So there will definitely be something interesting to look at there. The other thing
Mhm.
I wanted to mention, if we're okay with BTC, you don't have any questions here, Lady Trader, I would kind of wanted to bring out something from the stock market. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Take it away.
All right. So we're gonna take it back to like 1999, guys. We're gonna party like it's 1999. I don't know if you guys remember BlackBerry pin. Did you guys? I know I did. I did have a BlackBerry and a BlackBerry pin. But what's very interesting is to see these running, right? But there's a story behind here, and there's a reason that this has been running. So when you think of BlackBerry, you think, oh my God, that stuff is done, it's dead, it's over with, because we're thinking about the actual phone. But what about the technology? Right? The technology is forever existing and they have been making strides as far as their technology is concerned. They partnered up with Nvidia and not only
Hmm.
BlackBerry, but Nokia, right? You guys remember Nokia with the snake game?
Yeah.
Mhm. Yes.
You can you could throw it down a 10-story building and it'll still be fine.
Yes.
they partner up with Anduril. Anduril is a huge defense company. So these are two to keep an eye on. But BlackBerry, this was one that I made a post about a few days ago. It has been running since for a while. It has made 100% move since our initial entry. Our leaps that we got, that we were able to scoop up, those are up massively, and it is just on an absolute rip right now, along with the rest of the market. Right, so I think this has further upside. If we kind of zoom out here, we can kind of see, look at that structure, right? There's still room to go. It did hit a 52-week high. If we're talking about 52-week highs, it did hit a 52-week high earlier today at 661. So we can reclaim that. There's still move to the upside. Obviously, caution, it is running a little bit hot, but as we've seen previously and across all the board with all assets, overheated can stay overheated, overbought can stay overbought for a really long time, especially on the weekly. So it's one thing to keep an eye on. But I think, man, BlackBerry and Nokia, those are two. Even if it's just on your watch list to see where they go, because they're not just pumping out of nothing this time around. Because previously they were short squeezing, but these are pumping now because there's actual value added to this. So if we talk about the partnerships that they've had, the market cap that they're currently in right now, there's a possibility at some point, based on the upcoming earnings, whatever, based on those numbers, on the EPS, on the earnings per share, the possibility of a re-rate, which we have seen in Qualcomm and we have seen in Fluence Energy, FLNC, that I made a post about. Those are currently going through a re-rate where the market is re-rating them. So we're seeing them move massively. So let's say if BlackBerry and Nokia, they come out with earnings and blow out the numbers based on these partnerships, and their forward looking guidance are much better than the market expects, and the earning structure is much better than the market expect, I could see a continued move. But for now, it is a little bit overheated, so I wouldn't rule out people taking profit. Right, no one ever went broke taking profit, but I definitely do think that these should be at the bare minimum on your watch list. And when is earnings is in June, so we shall see how that plays out. Until then, that's kind of all I had. I think the stock market, and I think North Star posted about it, but also Ryan and I, we've been going back and forth on this as well. He actually told me the possibility of a melt up happening with so much, with everything that he was seeing on on his end. And it kind of seems like, we're in the middle of it in the stock market, right? Obviously, caution with the war. We saw the markets gave us a move to the downside yesterday. So definitely not a spot to be unhedged. Definitely, in my opinion, staying hedged is the way to go, especially on the equity side. But that's really all I
Mhm.
had to share, Lady Trader. I'll hand it right back over to you.
Thank you. Love that take, Nat. And I'm so glad that you brought up BlackBerry because I had something on my mind as well. I was thinking about the bullish news that is coming out. It wasn't too bullish, and I haven't even checked the chart lately of GME. But towards the end of, like, when the things are gonna get toppy, you do see these meme stock play kind of running. So AMC
Yes,
or
especially
GMEs.
GME. Yep,
Exactly, yeah.
exactly.
And GME was talking about taking over something, and I can't remember what it was that they were talking about taking over.
eBay. Yeah,
eBay, yeah,
eBay.
eBay.
And it became a whole show because they want to buy at a company that's bigger than them. So where's the money coming from? And then he was on
Yeah.
CNBC. He's like, well, half cash, half stock. It's like, okay, where's that gonna come from? So that he opened up an account on eBay just to troll them, and his account got suspended.
Ah, okay. That is interesting. But I did see bits and pieces of that, and that was funny. I'm like, all right, guys, this is how it starts, right? This is how we get towards the beginning of the end. And so that is scary. It's not funny, it's scary, but it's fun to see because that's usually how the markets stop. So we'll get into some of the things, and really what I want to talk about here is something that I did mention on one of the recent Wolf spaces as well. This is something that you shouldn't be married to. I did say that back then as well, but something to keep an eye on, because the way that I'm seeing the price action actually go is very interesting. It gives you these. You've heard me and Ash, and even sometimes Bits talk about three levels, three pushes, and people do these things differently, right? You have the market maker method that very strongly emphasizes on it. Um, Kelvin Ryan's method, not so much. His students don't care about the levels very much at all. The three levels. Steve Morrow's students are very much into that. Like, they will look into those levels. And one way to look at it really is how the price action has been for a while. You're basically seeing a so it's if you look at it, even here you had these three red candles. It's not always going to be the case, right? Sometimes there will be maybe consolidation, so you'll have maybe 4 or 5 candles, but maybe within the same range. But if you look at it, and it's something where I use it as more of the take profit strategy, and maybe nailing down some of the local tops and some of the local bottoms, right? But look at it this way. You have these 3 candles, right? 3 red candles, then 1 green candle. Then you have almost like this was 2. And then sometimes what would happen is that it will give you a big move, and then you can kind of determine, okay, how was the pattern playing out on smaller time frames? Can you see the 3 pushes or not? But a lot of times it's been very interesting. And so, like this one as well, you had 4 candles, but if you look at it, it was sort of like the same range. Then you have like these 3 candles, which really this one kind of became your third red candle. It was red, but it was almost like it went above this one. So it's been doing these things. This is very very crazy. And like I said, not always it's going to be the case, right? So don't be married to it, but do read price action that it's doing that more often than not. And especially for take profit, this is going to be it, right? And not always your take profit is going to nail like the exact top, but at least you will have secured some profits. And I'll give you an example of one of my trades here soon as well. But look at it here too. You had these 3 red, then or 3 green, and then 1 red. Then you had one major green, then a little bit of red here, and then 3 green, then a red. Then you had a big green and a red, and then 3 green. So just, of course, your major EMAs are going to play a role, right? So if it's hitting a major EMA, don't expect it to go any lower. That's probably what it's going to be. Like, this was really the case here too. All of these EMAs kind of acting as a support. Now, if it did reverse, then we would probably be looking at like a continuation of the 3 red here, which we did not get here. So watch out for these as well. So we had 3 green here, then 2 red, but then it hit a major EMA. Then we had 3 greens, and this one was fourth, but it kind of stayed within the range. And it kind of crashed as well, right? There was like a big bit of a correction here, then a red, and then another one. Like, you could even call this one almost like a part of this red structure here. And then you had these two. So this has been very, very interesting to me. This one here as well, the same one. And this was actually the one that I talked about on May 29th in Alpha Seedlings in the Telegram community. I did say that, once this was actually thrown, and a lot of people were actually bearish here. They were thinking we were probably going to go below, we're probably going to go to 70K. But I was like, nah, I think we've completed the 3 candle structure here. We had 3 red days. It's probably now time for the price to go up. And I did say that I'm expecting the price to hit this level and this level. And I said that very clearly. We were sitting here and it did hit this level. And I did take a long position. And I will also break it down on the smaller time frame on how I kind of took that long and where I did exit. Of course, I exited it here on the 3rd candle, so I didn't get the full move to the upside. I was okay with it, right? Profits are profit. But if you give me this 3 candle structure, I see a bit of a topping pattern, I'll get out. I'm okay with it, with missing out some of this move. So I had some long exposure. Of course, I've been mostly adding to the short exposure, right? Building some positions there. But one thing that also stood out to me was, if you look at the M15 chart, and this is going to be a pattern that you're going to see quite a bit of as well. And I've talked about it prior. But this candle here, this candle is really one of my favorite patterns to trade, where you have a huge, 1200, 1300 point move on a single candle. It will basically just have this really crazy momentum candle, and that basically marks your bottom. And usually, if you see price doing this and, even moving away from this, it will come back and retest, like this area. If it's done something like this, then this area will be tested. Sometimes even this area will be tested. So you will have time to get in. Like if you don't want to see if this was the momentum candle that you were looking for, once it's broken above, then really any retest of this is a good entry with a very, very short stop loss. And this is exactly what I actually ended up doing. When I saw this, I'm like, yeah, this is like game over. We're done. It's gonna go up now. Probably gonna hit those daily 800 and weekly 200 EMA. And that's exactly what it did. But it has to be like a very nice candle, right? 12, 1300, even more. Give me like a 2K candle like this, solid candle. And you have to wait a little bit, right? Because sometimes these kind of candles will continue. So you have to kind of wait to see how the pattern is forming. You can even wait for further confirmation, something like this. Then okay, this is it. And then come back the next day and try and, enter your long position. And then you will catch that. So this was a really solid confirmation for me. And I'll be looking for something similar going up as well, right? So when it tops out, it's going to probably, and also this kind of pattern gets thrown over the weekend quite a bit. And so if it gives me like a huge, doesn't clear this, but gives me like a big candle, like 1300, 1400 point candle, I'm going to be looking to see if there is a way that it does retrace all the way down, right, to that candle, and then get in when it goes back to retest that area, because then I will have a confirmation that this was a trap move to trap traders and it's not really going to do much here. And so that is something to keep in mind. Another thing that one thing that I used to use a lot, and this is for those of you who have learned the M's and W trading method that we've taught initially in Alpha Seedlings. And when I was going over that with you, one indicator that I didn't really go over was TDI. This is something that a lot of students from Steve Morrow actually use TDI for additional confirmation. And so the way that it works is that it will keep you out of bad trades and gives you some good confirmed moves. And so what it does is, for example, if you do trade M's and W's, we use this middle line as a confirmation when the price crosses not just the 13 EMA, which you remember, we do use it quite a bit for confirmation, but a TDI's middle, this one range, like this EMA, whatever that is, whenever it crosses, that's a valid M to take, or a valid W if you're trying to go long. So for example, here, and you have to have like a double, like a W pattern here too, right? So you don't want to take the first one, but you want to wait and see if the second one does close above. So if it does close above here and this one closes above somewhere, like it's already above the 13 EMA, then this will give you like a long trade opportunity as well. Again, 1-to-1, right? So you don't want to make sure that you're securing your profits very quickly as well with that method, at least taking some off so you don't get your stop loss to hit. And of course, if it closes under 13 again, then your trade is invalidated, so you'll get out anyway before it hits your stop loss. So it's like a safer way to kind of trade those M's and W setups. But don't use this one as just an additional confirmation, right? Don't blindly follow this, do your back testing and all of that, right? Do some homework on it. But this is a good indicator to use, TDI. And like I said, Steve Morrow's students absolutely love this indicator, so definitely take a look at it. Okay, now I'm going back to the daily chart. So what we saw was this 3 green candles, then 1 red candle. So what happens now? Either we are going to get 3 red candles, right? Maybe to these EMAs here. We have a fib level here as well. We're going to see how it places out. But it could potentially, after 1 red, it could give us 3 green again. So be mindful of that. That's basically how it's playing out. I need to see a lot more stronger rejection. There is a probability that this was it. Of course, we're going to be waiting for the weekly close to see how this one plays out. But there are some levels that I want to discuss. So I know that Bits is also, I did not see from, I was watching Bits stream yesterday. I heard from him today. I am not seeing the excited bearish Bits yet. And so usually when Bits of Wealth gets bearish, it's like, all right, The PFP is gonna be bearish. He's talking about being a bear. It's over. It's game over. I'm not seeing that yet. I'm not seeing that level of excitement yet. So that tells me maybe we don't, and I'm not seeing that on the chart either yet, right? We have to wait and see how the weekly candle closes first, which is gonna be 2 days and 7 hours. But there are some levels up here that I'm not going to dismiss. There is 50 EMA coming up on weekly around 85.8. Also, this level here, remember, guys, this one was a major yearly fib, which I'm keeping an eye on. The problem here is that it is kind of closing above. So this weekly really needs to like reject this and close below, because otherwise the next move that we are seeing is potentially here, 88.4. These are the levels. So which is why my short exposure, whenever I'm adding to it, I'm also booking some profits. Sometimes I'm hedging as well, like I showed you the long trade that I did take. But I think we are very, very close to the top, if not already topped, right? The weekly is going to confirm that. So we'll see. But these are a few other levels. And then, of course, um, last but not the least, this one as well. This is a major one. I believe it's 60 EMA. And this is used by Blowfin, which, they have it by default. And when I kind of went and back tested it, it was actually pretty awesome to have on your chart. So this is why I added it. So keep an eye on this one, these levels. I don't think it's going to go that far. But again, if stock market continues to make the move, then we could potentially see some push to the upside, right? It does not invalidate your historical data at all. It just means, it's going to be just a little bit of a chopping behavior, and then we're going to basically, it will be over. Another thing to remember also, if you look at how long it's taking you to go up or even, get to where we were today, that was not the case when it was crashing, right? So it was like crashing down significantly and then getting up here. It took forever. So whenever you see like a long time for a price to get to a level, then you know that the momentum is kind of dying down. It's not there yet. And you're going to start to see, the price rejecting sooner rather than later. So major level, right? This was a major level, bits already covered. We had some major EMAs already. So this is interesting to watch. We also have a fake W pattern here, which I call it a fake W pattern because it looks like a W, right? Too good to be true whenever you see a pattern like this. And so, and they did trap some people here, right? Trying to go short, trying to make you go short, and then they hit your stop loss. It's been kind of like a trappy pattern. And so I do anticipate that when the price comes down, it's going to be fairly significant. And then this is going to be taken very quickly. And then, of course, we're going to go to this 48K, which, again, once we get there, probably going to have a nice bounce. So these yearly fib levels are interesting to watch. So that's really what I have for BTC. Um, I'm bearish again, like I've said, overall, right? Short-term pumps do not matter. Overall, I am going to follow the historical data until historical data proves me wrong, until it stops working. I have absolutely nothing to add to that level. Like we have 10 plus years of data that's been very consistent. It has not changed. We have, of course, the political issue in Middle East. I'm tracking that as well, and I cannot emphasize enough on looking at all of the different types of media channels that are out there, right? So you don't want to just rely on one country. There's going to be, so much more information. So make sure that you're watching other media outlets as well, not just the American media channels. Of course, you want to keep an eye on Bloomberg, the Wall Street Journal. Those are pretty awesome. I keep an eye on those. Reuters is another one that I keep an eye on. And then I go to Al Jazeera, Russia TV, even China, even Iranian Press TV, because I want to compare the notes from what CENTCOM is posting and what Iranians are posting, and then figure out where the truth lies, right? Because it's going to be somewhere in the middle. Al Jazeera has been pretty accurate as well. They are a Qatari news channel, so they are by default against Iran. But they've been pretty reasonable in their coverage. Indian media is pretty awesome too. In India and Pakistan, there's one thing: when they're talking about the news, they're just going to give you the news. They're not going to have talking heads, say things. They'll just basically be very basic. They'll say stuff like, "This is what the Iranian leader is saying. Here's the translation. This is what Trump is saying. Here's the translation. This is basically how they play. So it's just news, no opinions. Not that they're not going to have opinions separately, but it's not part of the news. So that I like that, right? I like to see the news. Don't give me your opinion. Just tell me what was said and let me make my own decision on that. So that's they've done a pretty incredible job there too. Indian media and Pakistani media, both of them. So definitely look
Hey,
at all of
trader,
those things. Yes,
is there a level in regards to BTC, is there a level
yes.
that would make you think, okay, maybe the 4-year cycle is broken this time?
New all-time high really, Nat, because of the yearly. I mean, if you look at the 12-month, this is like when you have a pattern like this is very, very hard to um
Oh yeah.
like this is it. This is like all right, this is like multiple barriers we are talking about here. And so I will say if I was to bet on whether the 4-year cycle is dead, I would probably bet it on the other side where we may not get a bottom this time in October, like we are anticipating. That's where I would put my bet on. It won't be new all-time high. It will be, we probably won't get a meaningful bottom. That would really what I would say.
Yeah, I could see that happening too, because everyone's looking for towards October for it to be the bottom. So I could
Hmm.
see that completely changing this year, in which we don't bottom in October
Yeah.
and we continue to make lows.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there are some levels like this one, 18K. And so we can definitely, it can do some damage. And after this, I mean, even if it goes above, like, if it closes here, 98K, let's say, then I will be like, let's say we close the yearly around 98K. After, unless we've already hit these levels and then we are doing it, I don't know. But if we close here at 98K, that's going to make me concerned that we're probably going to hit this and create like a, you know, lower high and then maybe crash here. So this is really like the end game for me because we have never seen this kind of a pattern and with BTC before. And so yeah, I don't know what would happen to the world if this was the case though. So,
That would
but then
certainly make
also
things a lot interesting, right?
yes, I mean, will we be even alive to wonder, when we're gonna get a bottom if that's the case? So because this is looking pretty awful to me. Um, but yeah, yearly close. We'll have to see. And I hope everybody who's also keeping an eye on S&P 500 does remember because we did mention it quite a bit. Like we kept repeating it. War is good for the markets. War is good for the markets, and we're seeing that in S&P 500 because there was like a bit of a crash initially, and now
Yes.
look at us creating new all-time highs. Like I hope that's a good lesson for everybody. Um, War doesn't mean markets are going to crash. Of course, it's a different scenario, right? We're not at all-time high with BTC. That also tells you something. There's a big divergence between the stock market and BTC, and so BTC hasn't caught up. Um, so yeah, but if it creates like a new all-time high, Nat, then I'll say, all right, like if it ends up here, then I'll be like, yeah, 4-year cycles are definitely over at this point, and so yeah,
Yeah, that would make sense. The reason why I asked is because we were having this conversation on a space a few days ago, so I was curious to hear your take. But that would make sense. A new all-time high would invalidate the 4-year cycle.
yeah, yeah. Carl says there's a rumor that Sailor might start selling BTC. Well, yeah, I mean, it would make sense. I'm kind of, uh, it's very interesting to see some of these big names really not doing what they should be doing based on the charts, right? They don't care about the charts. But yeah, it would be very interesting if that was to happen. Sailor's starting to sell Bitcoin, but yeah, if it goes like if it creates like a new all-time high, which again, a lot of people are gonna be like, "Well, you guys missed out on it." It's like, no, did we really? Because we sold between 118 and 126K. So no, we are not missing out on it. Because if you were to say, if it's gonna go to new all-time highs and never come back down, that's a dumb idea. It will have retracement, it will have some pullback. So we'll probably get in at 100K at that point. And so still it's gonna be lower than our exit price. And so I don't think it's going to happen. I'm just talking like the worst case scenario based on the analysis and the plan, the trade plan that we have, right? If it totally goes against it, then what's going to be the next move? That would be the next move is when it does crash. then you get in. And so, but yeah, this is bad, guys. Like, this pattern is really awful. This is the first time in the history of BTC on a yearly chart you've had a hammer like this, a bearish hammer. This is telling me, Raw, be careful. Don't just buy like a crazy person when you do think that markets are bottoming out. So there's a good
I'm gl-
chance
I'm,
they might not. Hmm?
yeah, I'm glad you're covering this, right? Because when we talk about our lower time frame target, it's like, okay, based on what? Based on the chart. Well, what on the chart? Now we can say, okay, we're not the only one seeing it. Lady Trader is seeing it as well. She was the first one that brought it up. We spoke about it on the stream. Like, that candle does look really horrible, and it's followed by another candle that, if that closes red as well, we're in big trouble.
Yeah, exactly. And it's going to close red, right? It's going to close red. It's all the matter of
Yeah,
where is it going to close. And then once you have two crazy candles like that, can you expect the third candle to retrace all the way up, or are you going to expect it to
that's
maybe go
highly
all the way up?
unlikely. Yeah.
So I mean, this is one of those things where if you go and watch uh North Star's analysis, some of his analysis is like, okay, 10-year or multi-year bear cycle, right? And this is what I'm seeing here, like a multi-year bear cycle, which he wasn't talking about BTC, so it's like a different concept here. But to me, the pattern looks like, what are we going to get, like a 10-year of bear run? Especially if we do think that Bitcoin is going to go to $1 million, do you think they're going to give you that, like, money that easily? Probably not.
Right. Great
Like,
point.
right? So, I mean, especially if the belief is that the governments around the world want you to work, your 9 to 5 and all of that. Do you think you're gonna get that easy money? They're gonna first take those Bitcoin off of you and then, or from you, and then they're gonna give you the, whatever they need to do. Like gold was the same way, right? Like you were given gold certificates, and then, like, if you go look at the history of gold, all the gold was taken from the people before it started to pump. And so, or most of the gold, I should say, not all. But you were given gold certificate, which then became later the currency, right? The US dollar. If you go back and look at the history of fiat, this is basically what it did. It was like the biggest scam in the world. So BTC would do something similar, right? It's probably not going to give you those easy returns. And it's too easy. It's become too easy for people to make money nowadays. And that's not what you would want. Um, you want
That's
people
not.
to work. You want, yeah.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. But it becoming too easy for people is also why I am cautious about October. Because if it bottoms at October, everybody buys again. So it's like really easy, right? Oh my God, we're all time in the market. It's super easy. We're all buying in October.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Because everybody who understands historical data, we nailed the top, we know how it worked beautifully. Now we are hoping that we're gonna nail the bottom, but there are a lot of people who are also expecting that bottom, right? And
Exactly.
so what if it doesn't work that way? So we'll have to, I guess, also see at that point what the majority is thinking. Another thing to remember, man, this is another thing too. Like this candle here, this big green candle, I mean, what's the difference between a pattern like this and what I showed you on, the bearish chart on M15, where you had a huge red candle and then a total reversal off of that? This is pretty similar, right? Like a big green candle, they give you this, and then it reverses all the way. And so this could mark multiple years of red. So be open to that. I'm open to that concept. I mean, I'm gonna follow my analysis, but I'm gonna also see, like, if the entire crypto Twitter all of a sudden, those people who were arguing with me back in November of 2022 and telling me, oh no, further downside, it's gonna go to 5K, it's gonna go to 3K. If I don't see those kind of people and everybody's happy and bullish, then I'll be like, all right, this is not good. So like, I'd be
Now,
concerned. I want to see the sentiments, right? So Nat, like when we get here, let's say we are at 37K and the entire world is ready to buy, I mean, that would be the biggest sign that we probably need to be more
go lower.
cautious. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Because
agree.
if everybody becomes the historical data expert at 37K, yeah, I would not like that. I want people to argue with me when we get there that, no, lady, we are going to 20K. The macros don't support it, and blah blah blah, right? Like the accurate, not like, don't pretend to do that, but like actual sentiment. And those sort of debates I want to see here. And so Just like how people were angry here, right? 125, 126K. Um, I got some really ugly messages about it. And I want to see similar ugly messages when we get there, where people are saying, no, 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 further downside, 20K, 18K, 10K. That's what I want to see. So if I see that and I'll be safe, I'll be like, all right, time to buy. But if I don't see that and everybody's bullish, then that's going to be bad. Like, I'm not going to like it very much. Carl says, haven't
I
heard much.
agree.
It's going to be fun. Carl says,
By
haven't
the
heard
way,
much from the 150K guys the past couple of days. That is funny. Carl, go ahead, Nat. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
no, all good, all good. And I love your analogy about the three red candles. By the way, whenever we see like the three full-bodied red candles back to back to back in the on the equity side, those are called three black crows, right? So something to keep in
Mm-hmm.
mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I mean that's definitely it. And then again, if this one is, maybe we will get the three red candles and then a green candle and then maybe another three
Yeah.
red candle. You don't know. This was like a big change as well. And then the other thing that actually bits brought to my attention was the quarterly. The quarterly was having this like ever since we bottomed out, it basically was doing this, two green, one red, two green, one red, two green, one red, two green, one red, and then actually this time it broke that trend and we had two red. So are
Wow. Look
we?
at that.
Yeah, yeah. It was like on point, and yeah, that trend is now broken, right? We had two red quarters now. So are we gonna get a green quarter and then two red quarters, and then a green quarter, and then what is gonna happen after that? Are we gonna get follow through and get two more red candles? Because then that would confirm what I'm saying is a multi-year bear cycle. So we'll just have to see. But we are getting there. I mean, it's May, right? The third quarter will be closing in about 2 months, right? Close to 2 months, 1 month and 23 days. So we'll see how that quarter closes. And so, and then we don't have much time. Like October is coming up, right? It's coming right up. So we'll have to see. Um,
It's gonna be very
yeah.
interesting to see how all of this plays out, right? Because there's a lot of people on both sides of the fences. And that October, man, I think you're on the money with that one, right? Once we get to October, we kind of have to see how the sentiment is because if everyone's buying, just like you said, if everyone's buying in October, something's wrong. Something's off.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. No. All right. So really, that's what I had. I see Cade joining in the stream. Hey, Cade. There were no spaces this morning because Kate is traveling. I've been in and out as well. So we've had definitely glad that I'm back today with FOMO Friday. So, but yeah, that's really what I have for today. Anything else that you want to discuss, Nat or Bits? Any final thoughts or comments from you guys?
So I'm kind of just curious to see what's Bit take on it. Like what level would he look at to like reevaluate the full year cycle?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I start to I start to kind of question things above like the mid 90s. If we start
Mm-hmm.
getting a push above the 90s, I think we'll see then I start to kind of question if maybe we're doing something a little bit different. But yeah, I mean, your overall gauge is going to be do you put in a new high? I think above 90, I start to question if maybe there could be a move up there. So because there is a scenario. Here, I'll pull it back up. I'll pull the chart up real quick. But there is a scenario where you could go up there and sweep that 98K, move into the hundreds, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to take out that high um,
Mm-hmm.
completely. Give me one sec here.
Yeah. If anything, it would be like a yearly type pattern to me.
Yeah.
That would definitely be scary to me. I'm not
So
bullish.
like here's the chart, right? But like and I threw this channel up the other day and I was like, well, like there's something to it. Maybe there's something like this that's playing out where you kind of have a big channel on BTC and we travel up over here, sweep that 98K high, move somewhere between like 100 to like 110K or something, and then put in a lower high up there. And the only reason I say that I would start to question is because if let's assume right here it pulls back a little bit, you do something like this, let's say it tries to come back one more time and like kind of works its way up here somewhere, um, then I'd kind of be watching to see if on a pullback, does this try and hold here and break out higher? Because you'd be flipping this huge level here potentially into support. So, and this is all like we're speculating on a bunch of stuff that hasn't happened yet. So, but yeah,
Mhm.
I'd be watching for something like that maybe. But you know what's interesting to me, even more than like what it could do in dollars, is what it's doing against gold. So against
Mhm.
gold, Bitcoin is getting a little bit of a pump against gold. It's got a lot of room to make up for it. So the main level that I'm watching on the BTC gold chart is that previous quarter high. Previous quarter high is like a very important um, area that I'm watching here against gold. I think it's likely if it is going to head lower, I think there is a chance that it could come up and potentially sweep that either in this quarter or the next quarter. You could sweep that previous quarter high and take a little bit of that liquidity that's above there before heading lower. And that would play into the capital rotation theme. That would give time for this melt up in equities. Bitcoin could probably chase a little bit, and then overall, you really don't change anything here because even if you came up and did something like that, I'd still be expecting a move lower, even after a move higher. You'd just be taking that external liquidity above that previous quarter. And why doesn't it let me move that? Hold on, there we go. So there could be something like that that's maybe setting up, take a little bit of time. What invalidates this for me is if we do turn around here and instead we take out the previous quarter low, right? So if we take out previous quarter low first, then I think it's more likely that the normal things are playing out. This is doing something like that. You take out this previous quarter low, and then I'm looking for a bounce down here, and then likely this would align with that October low type of move. But I think if this here, even if it were to stall, like let's say against gold, let's say this were to stall here a little bit for like another month or two or whatever, and then it makes that move up, sweeps this high here, then I think that's what leads to the low. And in that case, maybe it could extend a little bit past October because we could be pumping for another, at least for the end of this quarter. So two more months here, and then maybe another 3 months after that still that we kind of pump up. Instead of heading lower towards October, we'd be heading higher towards October and then trap people and then roll over. So, and you have to remember that here's the funny part between like looking at this and the US dollar is that Bitcoin can pump against gold here and not take out these highs over here, right? Because it's got like this range high here.
Mhm.
It could make a lower high here, but it could, in that process, make a slightly higher high in US dollars. Because that's basically what you saw this entire cycle where Bitcoin basically topped at the 2021 highs against gold, but against US dollars, it did put in um, a higher high against US dollars, right? So, and that
Mhm.
would just be a function of gold outperforming um, the dollar as well as then Bitcoin, but Bitcoin slightly lagging gold, underperforming gold. So I think this would play into that capital rotation idea. I'm
Mhm.
curious to like kind of pick North Star's brain on this next time we get a chance to chat with him on if he
Mhm.
thinks that Bitcoin could maybe get a bit of a rally here against gold, not break out against gold, just simply range here, but potentially against the dollar, get a move that comes up either really close to all-time high or maybe even takes out all-time high by a little bit and then
Mhm.
just has a massive correction after that, and it's just kind of like a double top. I mean, essentially you'd be getting what you got with the double top in 2021. Like you would still be doing that, something like that essentially here,
Mhm.
which would be quite crazy. Because then like if we're talking about the 4-year cycle being broken, this is the best way that it breaks where both sides are screwed, right? The bears are
Mhm.
screwed and the bulls are screwed because you trap all the bulls thinking you're going super cycle here on one more push, right? And then bears are now looking foolish for thinking you're going to go to 40K. And then this thing goes down here and it takes out like 2022 lows or something. And now everyone just doesn't know what the heck is going on anymore.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. That's like the wildest scenario I can think of. I,
Well,
I
yeah,
think it'd
it's
be
wild.
absolutely crazy. but it's
No, I
founded
know.
in understanding like the relationship between Bitcoin and gold, and the fact that you
Mhm.
are seeing a bit of a melt up. But even in that melt up process, you're still not outperforming gold. It's just allowing gold a cool off period, basically, so
Yeah.
everything else can kind of have a catch up. That's the only reason I would entertain something like this. But again, this is
Mhm.
just like, this is total like brainstorming, spitballing, just kind of just talking about like a wild possibility. So for me, I think if the
Mhm.
cycle is broken, like to the upside, that's how I kind of envision it. I don't see a scenario where this thing comes up here and goes to 300K or something like that, and it doesn't have another deeper correction just because of the Bitcoin gold. So to summarize it, either if it's broken and you're going a lot higher, I think it's going to be a trap move potentially, right? Highly likely
Mhm.
it's a trap move until you see Bitcoin break out against gold. If you see Bitcoin
Mhm.
break out against gold, if we see this suddenly flip and you're getting a big breakout move against gold, okay, then maybe Bitcoin is actually going on some kind of super cycle run and something else is happening. But if Bitcoin takes out its all-time high while putting in a lower high against gold, or even just another, like a triple top here, even just another equal high, then I think Bitcoin against the dollar is going to get a wild correction to the downside, and that would be kind of
Mhm.
like that broken cycle narrative. If you're going to break it, I think it breaks and both sides are screwed.
Mhm.
Yeah, I could see BTC going to like the mid 90s and it still being a trap. Like this is
Yeah.
the
Yep.
short squeeze that we were talking about. I
Yep.
think was like at the beginning of the year where we could see Bitcoin just
Mm-hmm.
squeezing all the bears out of their
Yep.
position, only to proceed lower. I could see something like that happening with BTC in the mid 90s.
One
Mhm.
last comment, and I'll shut up after this. But when you were sharing and you were saying that like you're talking about like causing the bears or people to get bullish up here at the high, right? You're saying like a lot of people are getting super bullish up here at the high. One thing I noticed,
Yes.
and I talked about this yesterday, on this initial move up here, you still had a lot of people that were trying to short all of this, myself included. Like we were shorting at key
Mhm.
levels where it's like, ooh, I'll take a foot soldier here, see if it sticks. Boom, nope, got stopped. I'll try again here. So I took a couple here, and I also saw a lot of the large accounts that were calling for 80K, calling for a move up here to 74, 75, up to 80, and they were going to short. They were all perfectly like aligned here, right?
Mhm.
Basically before the start of the month. All of April, they were on board of, yep, we're going to short. This is the short. This is the trap. You're just coming up to this level here from the Feb highs. This is going to be our short. And then the month opened and we took out April highs, and all of
Mhm.
those bear accounts started to capitulate up here in the last like 3-4 daily candles. They all started.
Mhm.
I saw like a bunch of, I was wrong. Well, I guess Bitcoin is actually trying to go higher.
Mm.
Maybe this thing is actually going to go up into the 90s. All of this happened in the last like 3 days, 3-4 days. They were
Mhm.
perfectly okay with being bearish here. They had a plan. They said, sure, it could still overextend a little bit. I'm prepared. My stop is up here at like 86, 87. A lot of them had
Mhm.
85 as like a stop. This thing goes to 82.5 and they all flip. They close out their shorts, everything. It didn't even hit their stop. It wasn't a technical, they got
Yeah, it
stopped
was not.
out. It was a capitulation. It was ooh, this is too scary. I'm going to close my trade because it's looking too strong. And that all happened in the last 3-4 days. So I am paying attention to the fact that happened here, that you had actual traders. I'm not talking about KOL, like fakers, like, no, no. I'm talking about actual
Mhm.
traders closing their positions, closing their short exposure up here
Mhm.
because it went up, $2,000, right? Like it went
Yeah.
up $2,000 and they all capitulated. And a lot of them started looking for longs. I was like, what are you doing, brother?
Yeah,
Like,
no,
let's look
no.
for longs at 70. Let's look for longs at like 76 or under. Like, what do you mean you're looking for
Yeah.
longs at 80? So they started to
Yeah.
capitulate up here. So I don't know. That's part of the reason why I am paying a lot of attention here, that I think we're still in like disbelief that could be the high. And again, if we
Mhm.
get that weekly close below, that's the
Mhm.
exact kind of high you want. It wasn't a high
Exactly.
volume move. It wasn't
Yep.
obvious. There's no volume confirming, but the sentiment to me tells me that it's a disbelief high. It's a high that people are going to be like, damn, that was it. Same thing that we got back here, by the way. Everyone was looking at
Yeah.
100K. Everyone was thinking it was higher, and that was it. And it starts moving lower, and then I was like, oh shoot, I think that was it, including myself. That's why I could speak to it. You know.
Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah. No, a lot of people were
So
calling for 100K back then.
yeah,
A lot of
I thought it
people were.
was
Yeah,
going
I
to
did.
100K. Yeah,
Yeah.
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 No, it was pretty.
Yeah.
See a
But
question. Oh, go ahead, Ned.
yeah, great assessment. I mean, for me personally, I could see it going to mid 90s, like I said, and then back down. I would personally start to question stuff if we start to see closes
Mm-hmm.
above 100K, because I feel like BTC can wick to like 100K and then
Yeah,
close below on the weekly. But if we start seeing weekly closes above 100K, at that point, I'm like, But as
yeah,
of right now,
Mm,
there is absolutely nothing that tells us that the 4 year cycle is different.
yeah,
Everything is proceeding according to plan. No, even this run up that we're seeing, because I believe
yeah,
I mentioned it previous FOMO Friday, right? Where last cycle we had a run up and that kind of trapped a lot of people, right? We also had a lot of people going super bullish before we started to proceed to the downside, right? So these run-ups that we're seeing, it's nothing new, right? So
yeah.
until
mm-hmm.
we start, for me personally, until we start seeing closes above 100, for me, I would say that the 4 year cycle is definitely still intact.
Intact, yeah. No, absolutely. You know, one thing I will also mention here that this could be it. Like I said that very high probability that this was it. Very, very high probability. Okay. Because we did reject this 200 EMA. I'm going to actually
Yeah.
share my screen. I thought I was already sharing. But this daily pattern is very bearish. You have a rejection off of 200 EMA. You have a rejection off of 800 EMA. All of these EMAs kind of coming together, creating a big resistance here. So there's a
Yep.
big chance that this was it. Like this is it.
Yeah,
I did
you
have an
came
8,
back. You
82.5.
you came
Yeah.
back below the previous range low. Also, Lady Trader, that
Mm-hmm.
80,600. You're back below the previous range low. You're
Yep.
back below February highs. You're back.
Yep.
I think you're still above the 6-month rolling VWAP. Let me confirm. But if we
Mm-hmm.
lose that, then that's a huge level. That's your six. It's like your 6-month level to watch in terms of VWAPs. And
Mm-hmm.
no, we're still above that. It's actually what we're bouncing on right now. So we're bouncing
Yeah.
on the 6-month. So it's at 79,470. And that's kind of been my
Mm-hmm.
level. Like if we lose 79,5, 79 on a weekly basis, I think
Mm-hmm.
it's over. Like
It's so
I
yeah,
think
it is.
it's yeah,
And also, this is
yeah,
also, remember, guys, this was like the beginning, right? So 29th, I did say on 29th that we're going to go up. That was basically what I called it. And that was also the first week of, now we are in first couple of weeks of May. So usually the beginning of the month moves are fake. So keep that in
yep,
mind. And I've always said that, right?
yep,
It doesn't mean if I'm bearish. And if it's bearish at the beginning of the month, then I have called out that we are probably going to close the month green. So this
yeah,
time, I do believe that this could be it. Of course, we're going to be watching for confirmation on how weekly closes and all of those things. And
hmm,
we talk about some of the potential levels above. It doesn't mean it's going to get there. I do see that this could potentially be it. This may be it, which is why I did have a pretty nice position on, at 82.5. I'm kind of looking at it as well. Did have some foot soldier. Like I'm building my position. I'm okay with it. It doesn't matter if it goes higher. I'm just going to add to my position, and I'm taking some profits as well. Like when I called the 29th, I knew it was going to go up, so I did take quite a bit of profits here, and then I added to my position when we went up. And so be mindful of that. I mean, this could be
yeah.
it, right? We are not saying for sure we're going to go up. Like this could be it. I did see a question or a comment from Mike where he said, can we just stick to the 4 year cycle and then assess in October if things are different? Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Like I'm open to possibilities. I'm ready, but my thesis it has not changed. This 4 year cycle until the 4 year cycle proves me wrong, which I
Yeah.
don't think it will. So unless it's like, we don't get a bottom, then that's a different story. But that's a bad story for the bulls, right? The perma bulls. So that's basically what it is. I do see Carl has some pretty awesome comments as well. 3-day ceasefire just announced between Russia and Ukraine. Yes, that's another bullish news, right? So that's good. it seems like we are getting as much bullish news as we can for the markets to go up, push S&P
Hmm.
500 to 800 or 8,000. I'm sorry. That's probably what we're going to be doing. But yeah, this is good to keep an eye on all of the ceasefire announcements and everything. Um, but yeah, I think we had a great coverage today. Any final thoughts or comments from you, Bits?
No, no, I think we covered it. I think we're good.
Yep. Nat, any final thoughts or comments from you?
No, I think this was a great space. It's always good to look at the what if or just in case, right? Give an overall view or an overall scope of things, and I think we covered that beautifully today.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Bits and Nat for co-hosting it with me, and thanks everybody for joining in. Thanks for the little bits and thoughts and comments that you leave here, Carl. We are always excited to have you whenever you join us.
Mhm.
So thank you for that. But yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in, and we will be back again with another FOMO Friday very soon. Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend.